So we've got these companies that say that they're doing things in the public interest, right? That they do public interest technology. Well, not everyone can do public interest technology. And perhaps those that pay lip service to it early on will get burnt early on. And I just looked to the AI principles. You know, you had this mad rush of large transnational organizations coming out and saying AI principles that, AI principles this, and AI principles, let's look at it from a metadata perspective and bring them all together and form a, you know, mega principles of principles. Well, that's all good and well, but prove that you're actually doing what you're saying you're doing. I mean, prove that you're walking or doing the talk, right? Walking the talk. And if you can't embed these principles in everyday practice, whether you're doing experimental robotics, whether you're doing agile programming, whatever you're doing, then it's really just smokescreen, right? It's ethics washing. A lot of industry people even call responsible innovation ethics washing, although I tend to have a deference there. Because there are people working with implementing RRI within industry. I've seen that firsthand. But what about these other people, these other organizations that claim to do public interest technology and, you know, by accident embed microphones in their IoT products when they're just supposed to be responding sort of to trigger words, right? So maybe the society's had enough of fakeness. And maybe people are starting to say, well, okay, they do ethics this or ethics that, or they do public interest tech, or they do RRI. Well, prove it. Prove it. And this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where what we're trying to do is operationalize sociotechnical theory and prove from the original inputs that this is how we end up. Here are the tasks, the people, and the processes that make X happen. And you can trace that through and audit that. But beyond audit and compliance, you're actually doing it day in, day out. And of course, that means that ethics need to be embraced by employees in the corporation, right? Not just pointed to on a chart of 6 principles, and ethics is one of them. You know, those principles that everyone has, like respect, responsibility, diversity and inclusion, etc., etc. Well, it's not about pointing at these things, it's proving that you do them operationally, and that's very, very hard. So when we're doing public interest technology, it's not just about proving in that you're doing something, okay? But everything about your organization, your products, your processes, your people, everyone is walking the talk. And so public interest doesn't mean you're always generating things for profit. You know, imagine a Facebook turning around tomorrow and saying they're a public interest technology firm. That would be crazy. Although I never give up hope that at least in some aspect they're moving in the right direction, even if for the time being it's lip service on any number of issues, whether it's diversity or RRI. Okay, so we can be cynical, but if people are at least identifying there is a need for underrepresented minorities to be in practice, you know, maybe you don't want it to be you, but maybe somebody else wants it to be them. Maybe if we have these roles in organizations, to begin with, they exist. Okay, who knows if they're actually being hired, and really that's the truth. But so long as there's something, some inkling of hope, then public interest tech is alive and well. And so that's what I want you to think about. How can you imbue public interest technology in your corporation and do so with your head held up, saying, that's what I want the future to be like. That's how I want us to build products. That's how we're going to be economically viable. You know, we're going to build good technology and we won't rip off people or create addiction by design scenarios, but ensure that people can have their freedom and their data. Because a lot of this has to do with rights management and your data, right? So that's just a bit of food for thought.